Hey guys, Carlos Colon here with Georgia Perimeter Homes, and today we're going to be talking about how is agent commission or realtor commission calculated, whether you're selling or buying a home, how that works, and we're going to give you some examples to go off of as well. Alright you guys, so this is not a very complicated subject. It just boils down to the understanding on how it's calculated and a couple different ways that it can be done. So we'll jump right in. Let's talk about two different examples. One of them, we're going to talk about the flat fee. What flat fee means is basically it's just a dollar amount that's associated to the transaction process. And then we have the other side of it, which is a percentage fee. Okay, so that percentage fee is typically calculated off of the sales price of the property. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of each, and then we'll go into kind of some details. So let's talk about the flat fee first. So in flat fee, so there's, more than two ways this can be done. For the sake of this video, I'll give you two. One of them is going to be the self-list. Let's say that the seller decided, hey, I just want somebody to put it on the MLS. I don't care about it. I'm going to handle everything as a seller. I'm going to take my own pictures and everything else, and I just want to pay someone $100 or $200 to do this and just kind of get it on the MLS. Okay, so that is an option. And in doing that, you have to still offer the buyer's agent something, because on the MLS, that's part of the agreement with the MLS, is whatever agent on the buy side is bringing the buyer has to be paid in some way, shape, or form. So you could do a flat fee on both ends in doing that. And so you could do some money for the listing itself, and then just offer a certain amount of thousands of dollars for the other side of it. So that's one way. Second way is you are working with an agent, and the agent says, hey, we're selling a $100,000 home or something, and we charge $3,000 for this transaction, and then we'll charge $2,500 for the buy side, and so it's a total of $5,500. So there's that flat fee aspect of it, and again, these are rough examples just for the sake of this video. Now, on the other side of it, we have the percentage. There's two types in this case that we're going to talk about, and it's, for the sake of this video, again, we're going to talk about the sales price that we're associating with it, not the list price. So one of them is the gross sales price, which is, okay, here's the number that we sold the property for. The other, which is typical in investor sales, is the net percentage price, which is what a lot of investors do. Not all, but some. And so a good example of that, and when we say net, is you sold the property for $100,000, but let's say that the buyer asked for $5,000 to come back to them in closing costs or seller contributions. Well, the net sales price at that point was $95,000, not $100,000. So in that example, the net percentage would be $95,000 times whatever the total listing price was in order to calculate your numbers. Whereas the gross would be $100,000 was the sales price. No matter what seller contributions you agreed to give, that was the gross sales price that's calculated off of that. So those are two different ways to do that percentage. I suppose you could do it off of the list price, but that's not, it's not very common. I've never seen it myself. It's usually based off the sales price itself. It's important to break down the other side of it, which I briefly mentioned in a couple of those examples, which is that the buyer's agent is paid from the listing broker. It's very important for you to understand how that works. So let's say that the listing broker is charging 6% for the transaction. The listing broker is the one agreeing to pay the buyer's agent, not the seller. Now, in turn, is the seller agreeing to both? Yes. However, it's actually the listing broker that's agreeing to pay the buyer's agent a part of the commission in order to have a win-win transaction, so to say. So An example of that is what we talked about when they're charging 6% and then they're sharing 3% with the other agent. So it's important to understand how that works. So a lot of sellers go, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent. Well, you're not. You're agreeing to list it, and then the listing broker is agreeing to pay the buyer's agent. And so it's important to understand where the money actually breaks down that way. So let's jump into some examples. So, flat fee. So let's say that we're doing a $100,000 sale. Or we list the property for $100,000. Let's say that we sell it for $90,000. Well, so a flat fee, let's say that the listing broker is only charging $6,000 for the listing fee, and they're sharing $3,000 of those $6,000 with the buyer's agent. Well, in that case, you sold it at $90,000, but the fee is still $6,000 total, and they're sharing half of that with the other brokerage or the buyer's agent. And so in that case, in a $90,000 sale, for example, you're still paying $6,000. Doesn't matter what the sales price was. Now, on the other side of it is the percentage side of it. So, like we talked about, most common is really gross percentage price. So we're going to focus on that one. So, property went live for $100,000. That was the list price. It sold for $90,000. And now on the percentage price, what's happened is we sold it for $90,000. You multiply $90,000 times 6%, and then you divide that. Let's say they agreed to share half of that, so 3% with the other agent. So you get the total, and it ends up being $2,700 to one side, $2,700 to the other. And so that's based off of the percentage from the sales price. So that one fluctuates depending on what the sales price was. Now, I have also seen a variation of both. And so it's important to understand what that looks like, which is kind of, we agree to list it at a flat fee, and then there's a percentage paid on the buyer's agent side. So an example of that would be, let's say that we agreed to list it at $3,000, and then we agreed to pay the buyer's agent 2.5% when they come in. And so obviously from the list price, you're paying, from the listing side, $3,000, and then for the buyer's agent side, 2.5% of the sales price. So there is a combination that you can do on that. So in summary, this is the important part to take in here. There's no rule or law that you have to do one or the other. This is really what it boils down to, is what's going to work best for you. In a flat listing fee situation, just know that most agents that do that and most brokerages that do that expect you to do all the work in most cases. Whereas a percentage, you should expect a particular quality, I guess you could say, and experience through the transaction that you wouldn't otherwise have had. And that's making my life easier as a seller is the expectation. So there's no rules or laws that say that you have to do it one way or the other. It's all a negotiation. But I will say that it really boils down to how the listing broker, the listing agent, runs their business. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you had a $2 million property and you wanted to sell at a flat fee. And you said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mr. and Mrs. Agent, hey, listen, I just want to pay $3,000 for somebody to put this on the MLS. Well, I can tell you right now, I would not agree to take that listing at all. And the reason being is because if this is going to be done right, I'm going to spend $3,000 just on marketing, part of marketing alone. And so it doesn't make any sense to take that listing, because if I run my company that way, I would be bankrupt. So you have to understand that it's all about the property and what's going to be done by that listing broker in order to be able to get your property sold and get this done the right way to net you the most amount of money. So make sure to have those conversations. Make sure to ask questions. There's no harm in asking and also interviewing to find out who's going to do the best job for you. And just like anything in life, cheaper is not always better. It's very important to understand that. It's the way I like to phrase it is, if you want to buy a Mercedes, but you want to pay Honda prices, or cheap Honda prices, it doesn't usually work out that way. You're not going to get the quality of one for the other, for the price of the other. Not typically. It's very, very uncommon. So you get what you pay for. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, or you're looking to buy or sell real estate, please reach out to us. We are the experts in the state of Georgia. Our number is 770-314-1285, or check out our website at www.georgiaperimeterhomes.com. Thanks. Bye.